Welcome to the Probate Realtor Show, your one source for selling and buying real estate through trust and probate. Hear directly from the best attorneys and trusted advisors on how executors and administrators navigate the probate process in and out of court. Being a personal representative or successor trustee can be a daunting task, and often beneficiaries don't have a clear plan. Let us help you make the right decision for your clients, your family, and your legacy. And now, here's your host, the probate realtor himself, Matias Baker Masucci.
Welcome, everybody, to another very exciting episode. And we are back with Jeff Kravitz. Jeff, welcome back to the show. I'm going to have a Jeff Kravitz, mediator and arbitrator extraordinaire. Is that a good introduction? Okay.
Perhaps the best I've had.
Okay, beautiful. Jeff, I want to ask you something. Last time we talked about, like your work as a mediator, your work as an arbitrator and conflict resolution techniques. But I want to talk to you about something else right now. And we'll get back into that as well later. But what I want to talk to you about is your experience as an attorney. What informs your journey into where you are today? So, did you want to be an attorney when you were a little kid?
I did, which is rather unusual.
Wow,
the quick story is, I grew up in Long Beach, California. There used to be an amusement park.
Yes.
And right across from the amusement park was the courthouse. And I would go down with my friends. We went to the amusement park. And when things got dull, we went over to the courthouse. And after 10 minutes of watching the trial, they were bored stiff. And I thought, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful.
I know. How fun.
That's great. You knew what you wanted to do when you were 10. I love that. I absolutely love that. Okay, so let's talk about their journey. You went to college and then went to law school. When you were in law school, did you know the type of law that you wanted to practice? Or were you like, you know what, I'm going to do some trust and estate this and that. I don't know what, criminal defense, what was your experience when you first came into contact with the actual law?
Sure. But I didn't know the area that I would end up starting practicing in. And I will tell future law students, don't set your mind too early on, because you never know where the journey is going to take you.
Right.
But what I did know was that, frankly, I didn't want to sit behind a desk for my professional career. I knew that I had ants in my pants. I wanted to go out. I wanted to meet people. I wanted to see different locations. And if you're doing trust and estates and wills and corporate work, it was just much more static than I wanted to do. So I knew that I wanted to do litigation very early on.
Right. So didn't it scare you, the fact that litigation, it's contentious, and that part, were you always comfortable around conflict in your life, or was that something that you had to learn to become comfortable as you got to practice?
It's like anything else. If you're an actor or an actress, there is a bit of that in terms of going to court. At first, you have a little bit of the heebie-jeebies, but you work through that. But much like a good entertainer or a good athlete, there's a little bit of concern before you go on stage or before you take the athletic field. And that's part of, again, how we are wired. But I think it also keeps you fresh through all the years of your practice. So I will tell people that if you feel a little rumbling in your stomach, that's normal. That's not something to be avoided. It is something to be embraced.
Very nice. Now, sometimes litigation can get pretty nasty. So the other side may be, like not so pleasant, as you were giving us an example in the last episode. So what I wanted to ask you is actually personal things that I have. I don't know why I'm like this, but I seem to have a desire and a love for people to like me, which I think we all have to a certain extent. So I don't like to ruffle feathers until I do. So, which is kind of a weird thing, because I can be very assertive when I have to. But if there is a way not to ruffle feathers, I prefer to go that way. My question is, as a litigator, do you get used to the fact that thinking like, hey, these people are going to hate our guts, but we're still going to go forward and do what we got to do?
You have to. And the issue becomes, you cannot be reactive and respond in kind. Now, when someone would come to me on an initial interview, I would say to them, look, I am going to be effective on your behalf, and I'll stick the knife in to the other side. But if you expect me to twist it, that's going to cause 20 to 50% more because the other side is going to respond in kind. So I would weed out the people who would say, yeah, I want to spend the 50% because I not only want to win, I want to make it as unpleasant as possible for the other side. Again, it becomes a question of who you are. And I was in it for the long term. And I have found that lawyers who manage to stay above the fray last a hell of a lot longer than the people that they have to get down in the trenches every single time. It doesn't work.
Let's talk about talking people off the ledge. This is a perfect example. People come to you, people come to me too. They've been wronged. Maybe they negotiated the price. It was too low, too high, whatever they negotiated. And now they want to retrade during the escrow, really get their money back. Let these people have and in your case, somebody comes to your office. It was like, let's sue their asses. You look at the case, you're like, well, like maybe this case is worth this, and you're expecting to get this much. How do you talk people off the ledge?
I have one go-to that my son actually taught me.
Okay.
My son worked in Congress for a while, so he brings a little bit different perspective. And his go-to line is, do you want to be angry or do you want to go to result?
There you go.
And
That's
again, if they said, I want to be angry, I would tell people, I'm not in the anger business. I'm in the business of getting you a good result. And if that's what you want, I'm your man. But if you simply want to yell and scream and throw garbage at the other side, take it someplace else.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's good. That's the right approach to have. Let's quickly go back to you getting out of law school. What happened when you got out of law school? How did you end up being in the entertainment and more than that, in business transaction law?
Sure. And again, there are things that happen in life that when they're happening, you don't necessarily see them as blessings, and they turn out to be. Right. I started out with the California Attorney General's office, was making about half as much money as some of my classmates. But what they did was they would hand you a case and they'd say, kid, go try that case.
Wow.
So at the end of 3 years of working at the AG's office, I thought I was Superman because I had had so many more trials and experiences than my colleagues who had started out in private practice. Now let's segue. I ended up going with a firm that had just moved out here from Chicago. It was a ground floor opportunity. I wanted to get married and have kids. And it worked out very, very nicely. So it was a firm that did a lot of work with Lloyd's of London, the big insurance conglomerate. And one day at our weekly meeting, the boss man gets up and says, Lloyd's is starting to write entertainment insurance policies. Does anybody know anything about this stuff? Well, again, a fortuity. I had roomed with a theater arts cinema major when I was at UCLA as an undergraduate. And on Friday evenings, we would go out and catch a movie, knock down a few brews. And at the end of the brews, he thought I was Lucas and I thought he was Spielberg.
Oh, there you go.
I did not know a gosh darn thing about copyright, but I knew about the entertainment industry. And so I shot my hand up and told the boss, I am your man. I'm going to be your entertainment lawyer forever. That's how I made the move into entertainment law.
Very nice. That's interesting. Let's talk about some of the cases you've tried and how they have, I guess, informed your later decisions in life, particularly how they inform your profession right now of arbitrator and mediator. Can you discuss some of them with us?
I can talk about some of them, but I have to keep them a little bit generic because
sure. We understand.
And let's just say I had one A+ singer, and he was being sued in a commercial dispute. And the expression is ethos. What do you bring what do you bring to the situation?
Mm-hmm.
And again, without telling you who he was, what you saw was what you get. The public image of him was the private man. And I took him to the other side's lawyer's office for his deposition. And lo and behold, the receptionist at the other side's lawyer's office comes around the desk and hugs my client.
Oh, wow.
What then happens is the opposing lawyer saw it and he realized, if I go to a jury, I'm going to get creamed. We need to resolve the situation. So that worked out very, very well. Very, very well. I tried another case, which was a movie case involving an Academy Award winning song. And we went to trial and we won. But in the course of discussing the matter with my client before the trial, he has a little twinkle in his eye and he says, I didn't steal the song that the plaintiff is suing us over, but between you and me, I kind of took it from another song. It was pretty nice. So we couldn't resolve it for a variety of reasons, but I was sitting there at the trial just a little bit scared stiff that the other side would realize that he had stolen the song, not from them, but from somebody else.
Interesting. Wow, fascinating. And how does it work what you do now? How do people know how to reach a mediator or an arbitrator? Who are the sources? How do the cases come to you? Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. From a variety of situations. I am with two different organizations.
Okay.
I'm an arbitrator with the American Arbitration Association, which I believe is over 100 years old. And they are rather the go-to people for arbitration. And Matias, one of the things that makes them unique is I am on a national panel, which means particularly with Zoom, I may get a case in Indiana.
Oh, wow.
And the reason I mention Indiana is there is a very well-known, well-respected media company in Indiana, of all places. So these days you do them by Zoom, and it doesn't have to be Los Angeles or New York based. So that's the arbitration side.
Let me ask you a question because of that thing that you mentioned. I have a follow-up. In Indiana, you don't have to pass the bar in order to practice for arbitration.
No. In fact, that's a very interesting question because there are arbitrators who are not even lawyers.
Interesting.
Again, dealing with your world, if you are dealing with a construction defect case, maybe your best arbitrator is not going to be a lawyer, but somebody who's been in the building trades for 20 or 30 years.
Ah, yes.
And when you sign on for arbitration, that's one of the understandings. They're pretty explicit that your arbitrator may not even be a lawyer. It may well be somebody with particular industry expertise. And those are not random assignments. Okay. They're not going to give me something. They're not going to give me something in the building trades world because it's not where I live. They're going to give me something in entertainment, insurance, a business dispute. And that's the beauty of the American Arbitration Association. As to mediation, I am with an organization called ARC, which is Alternative Resource Centers, which is based here in Los Angeles. And they are a parent organization for mediators. And people come to me through their umbrella, which arranges all the business sides of what I do. I don't want to be sitting and counting paper clips at this stage of my career. They handle the logistics of putting me in touch with the people and setting the mediation.
Very nice. That's great. Now let's talk about some practical advice. I want to give our audience, some practical advice on what people can do to limit the amount of conflict that happens during, transactions, whether they are in entertainment or they are in real estate or they are part of, family disputes. What are some of the things that people can do One of the things that I can think of that I can share is manage expectations early on. If everybody knows what their duties are during a transaction, then you don't really have to have these expectations that are shattered, like you should have done that, they should have done this, they should, the seller should repaint the house for me, or they should do the repair. This is an example in real estate. People assume that the seller is under no obligation to do anything, just like the buyer is not forced to buy the property. The seller is under no obligation to change anything that is related to the property unless it is agreed upon during the transaction. So in your case, what are some advice that people can benefit from?
One of the things that I tell people early on, and I always did this in litigation, but I do it in mediation and arbitration as well, is to tell them, you think you got a great case, and maybe you have a great case, but if you have 100% of the facts and 100% of the law, you're going to win about 75% of the time.
Oh, there you go.
And the reason is juries are funny things. You don't know what's going to happen when you go in front of a jury. Right. I was representing a highway patrol officer in a case that was assault and battery by someone that he had stopped on the road. And the case is proceeding smoothly when he gets a terrible look in his eyes. And I whisper to him and I go, "What's wrong?" And he says, "I'll tell you at the next break." So we go into the break and I go, "What's up?" And he says, "I think I slept with juror number 6.
Okay.
And I said, by the way, he was a very good looking guy. Enough said. And I said, "Look, if you tell me you slept with juror number 6, I go to the judge and we get rid of juror number 6. But I can't go to the judge and say, you think you slept with juror number 6. So he goes, "Look, I'm sure I'm wrong. Let's just continue with the trial." So we go to trial. The jury goes out. They're out, frankly, much longer than I thought they were going to be. We had a good case. And they come back with a defense verdict. Whew. I went up to the foreman and I said, "What took you so long?" And he looked at me and he says, "From the very beginning, we were all in favor of your client, except that juror number 6. There was something going on." Okay. And I will tell that story to people because they think they have all the variables taken care of. And if you are going to proceed to trial, you never have all the variables taken care of.
Yes. Very good. Thank you. That is very good advice. Thank you for sharing. All right. Do you have any parting words for our audience as we wrap this up?
Certainly. And it's not because of my commercial interest, but I like to tell people, as in most things in life, sooner is better than later.
Yes.
And I can slay a small dinosaur better than I can slay a big dinosaur. If I can catch people early on, I may not only be solving the situation, I may be solving a relationship where the people can go on and do business. But if they have to go to litigation and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, I can promise you they're not going to go back in business together. Sooner is better.
That makes sense. Thank you very much. And before I let you go, there's one more thing which we're going to have your contact information in our show notes, but I would love for you to let people know, if people need to get a hold of you, what is the best way to reach you?
2 ways. And I'm on Google, I'm on LinkedIn, but it is email jkravitz, Kravitz, just like Lenny Kravitz, at ARC, ARC, number 4, ADR.com, or feel free to give me a call. I answer my own phone, 213-268-1963.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's been such a pleasure to have you on the show, and you have bestowed a lot of knowledge upon us, and I really appreciate you for that.
Pleasure is mine. Take care. Enjoy the holiday.
All right, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Probate Realtor Show. Find more episodes and interact with us at probaterealtor.la. That's probaterealtor.la. Listen, ask questions, and get results. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The probate realtor Matias Baker Masucci is a licensed real estate broker in California, DRE number 020547763. Any legal information provided is for informational purposes only and not for the purpose of providing legal advice. Contact an attorney to obtain advice with respect to any particular legal issue or problem. We make no guarantees as to the accuracy of any information. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.